up getting a polygon that would stretch probably Upson into Monroe and Jasper, and that's what we're seeing here. So this part of the thunderstorm sound that you're hearing out there for Jasper to Putnam, that part is not severe. It's this that's going through Griffin right here. So as this comes down, this eventually, if it holds with this strength, would go through Forsyth and right into Macon. There's a new severe thunderstorm warning over there just to show you, because that cell over there in Alabama is also kicking it, but that one looks to kind of track toward the west here. So this is the one that we're most concerned about. Again, the good news right off the top is we're not looking at some big tornado outbreak with this. So they don't want, severe thunderstorm warnings either, but again, we will take this over something that's rotating. Again, these are straight line winds. This is not falling into that sort of category of a system that's going to see spin or rotation. This is more of what you see is what you get, coming right through. There still could be some tree limbs, power lines down, things like that. But again, this is not a widespread thing. These other thunderstorms that we're seeing over here are not severe. And really, there was a time back in North Georgia, in the Atlanta area, kind of running north of I-20, where all of this had severe thunderstorm warning polygons, and then these started trimming off. So these are the main ones, and it really kind of lines up almost exactly with what the graph was showing at around 10 o'clock, a kind of bowing segment right there heading in toward Monroe County. So just to put your mind at ease, of course, when people are asking questions about on the chat, I've seen a lot of that about, is this rotating? This is a look at the velocity that's on there, and you can clearly see that this is all straight line winds right here. Okay, so you're talking about just a kind of a bowing segment where things kind of bow right through here. So the winds at times have been coming down 60 plus miles an hour. So I think it's going to be something like that we see. Another good indicator of the strength of the storm is the hail core. And this one has had a hail core the whole way across. You can see it through the Griffin area. Now, maybe upwards of an inch in diameter on the scale here. And as I back this up, what you'll see is that it's fluctuated at times. And you can see it's this same cell. It's been holding together way up at the top left of your screen when it was up near 1.5 inches, 2 inches in diameter. And then coming down, kind of fluctuating at times, and then now sitting somewhere maybe around 1/2 inch to 1 inch in diameter with that hail. So that just shows you where the main area of the storm is. Again, the polygon may be wide, but it doesn't mean that you're going to be getting the full brunt. Now, you may be getting the wind in that whole area, but as far as the hail, the intense center part of that would be where I just showed you. I put on here the storm outlook. So anywhere that's in the yellow is a level 2. That did get dragged down farther. It was kind of cutting off right here earlier. National Weather Service pushed that 2 on down into the Macon area. And again, don't get too locked into where it turns to green. It doesn't mean that just, North Macon gets a big storm and then it says, uh-oh, I'm in the green. I'm going weaker once I get into South Macon. That's not how it works. But the general idea is that we should eventually start to see weakening as this comes on down. The storms themselves are moving at a pretty good clip. Last I checked was around southeast at 50. So let's do a track with that. I'm going to take off the convective outlook. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll draw right along through there, and then we'll go southeast at 50 miles an hour, and then it would be these locations there. So that would mean within the next 45 minutes or so, starting to knock on the door in the Macon area. Of course, that's also taking it downtown. So probably, I would say within the next 45 minutes or so, something like that in the Macon area. But if you're in Forsyth, that's in probably the next 20 minutes. At least the wind would start to come through there. And then again, we'll see how well it's holding together. So far, it is not weakened down. We're still seeing the hail core in there and some gusty winds. But again, it is worth mentioning that this is the only storm of any concern, really. I mean, there's that, it's back over in Alabama, but the way that's tracking, that should kind of go underneath us like this. And then this over here to the east is not anything other than this general thunderstorm. So this is the main thing. Of course, it happens to have sites right through our area here, but at least we're not jumping around all over the place with multiple tornado warnings. Coming up in a little bit, we're going to start our 10 o'clock show on our CW channel. Of course, if you're watching us on the 13 WMAZ Plus app, it'll be seamless. We're just going to roll on into the show. We wanted to go ahead and start the stream here so that we could get you caught up, because the warning came out 10 minutes before the show, and then what we'll do is just kind of merge on into it. So again, this severe thunderstorm warning goes until, let's ask it a question about when it goes to. It showed me a moment ago. Let's see. All right, so that is until 10:30 there. And again, you can see some of the places that are on the list as it comes on down, just general times there. Again, the hail core holding together, 60-mile-per-hour winds possible with all that. And then we'll hope for weakening as we go on through. But let's start the show, and then we'll talk more about it coming up in just a second. The 10 o'clock show is beginning right now.
As we come on the air tonight, some strong storms are moving into the viewing area.
And that is why we are under a weather impact. Chief Meteorologist Ben Jones tracking the storms tonight. So what are we looking at now, Ben?
Well, again, you know, for those just joining us, we've been streaming already, especially on our Plus app. Thanks for watching us on that. It is kind of going to plan. What we were thinking about tonight would be that we would have some storms coming in, have a little kick to them. Mainly severe thunderstorm warning type stuff. So let me go ahead and say that right off the top, that we are not generally looking at a tornado type event here. This is more straight line winds. Now, again, you would say, well, what's the difference? Well, I mean, there's a big difference when you're looking at multiple tornado warnings and then a straight line wind situation like this. So this is the only cell. That's the good thing. And I always, in my book, I would rather take a severe thunderstorm warning over a tornado warning. But 60-mile-per-hour winds are still 60-mile-per-hour winds. So if you're right in that, you could still have some tree limbs down. There have been reports of some trees down with this cell back in Douglas County, Fulton County, as it's been coming on down through near the Peachtree City area as well. Pretty typical severe, springtime stuff here, though. So this is not anything outlandish, and it's not a huge severe threat, but there is one cell that is still holding together. Just to show you on the storm outlook here, I'm going to put the convective outlook on here. If you were looking earlier today, or even for the past couple of days, you were looking that there was a level 2 that kind of stopped right along here and was, northwest of there, and then the level 1 picked up for our area. That yellow has been dragged down into the Macon area here from the National Weather Service. So they were looking, saying, still got a little bit of a punch to it, so let's drag that yellow on down a little bit farther. And again, we don't get caught up in where that line is right there. It doesn't mean that the storm immediately obeys this map and drops down in intensity, but the thinking is that these should start to weaken just a little bit. Problem with this guy right here is it is not weakened just yet. It's got a pretty decent hail core on it, as we'll see. Right there is the bow. I wanted to show you that first, just to show you we're talking about how it kind of bows out right through there. That's where the wind is. Let's check in with the hail. Again, that's a pretty good indicator a lot of times of the strength of the storm, because the stronger the storm, the bigger the updraft, the heavier the hailstone it can hold. I mean, just think about if you were, with a little bitty leaf blower trying to hold a golf ball up there, it's not going to do much. But if you had a really shown off commercial leaf blower doing like that, you could shoot that golf ball way up in the air and hold it for much longer. So that is the way to think about these thunderstorms. And what we're seeing here in the Griffin area is still the possibility of, let's ask it that question, about 1 inch in diameter on that hail size. And really this one cell has kept this all across time, as it's even coming into northwest Georgia, is some fluctuation back and forth of hail core intensity out there. So that hasn't really been lost. All right, let's zoom out. And then again, I wanted to show you the storm outlook again is a level 2, but again, that is still not a big severe threat. Not discounting it. Just want to tell you that we're not in that 3 or 4 area, and we're not looking at some sort of like, hey, there are tornadoes all over the place. Having said that, though, if you're in Monroe County, Jasper County on down into Upson County as this is coming down, just stay away from windows as this is coming through. It's again moving southeast at around 50 miles per hour, so it's got some pretty good giddy up on it. Good news about that is it doesn't take long and it moves on through. So other storms, again, off toward the east, not severe. This off to the west is severe in Alabama, but if you track the general motion of that storm, that one has probably got the sights set more on the Columbus area. And I'd say we pretty sort of maybe run a little bit ahead of schedule with some of this. Some models were showing 9, 10 o'clock with this coming in, and then some were still showing 11 o'clock to midnight. And with the speed of this, which, I don't mind it, you probably don't either, so we're not having to do this overnight. Let's just go ahead and get it on through here. It wouldn't take too long to come down. Now, again, I know there are probably a lot of questions, as there is when we did the stream earlier, what I call the whatabouts. What about Dublin? What about Hawkinsville? What about all these other places? The general thinking is the farther south and east you go from here, over time, hopefully, this should weaken. These right here have already started to do that. This one has not done that yet, but at some point it may happen. I mean, it's 10 o'clock, so we've already had 2 hours with sunset. There's not a ton of fuel out there to keep these thunderstorms going, but there's enough, or at least this one on the leading edge, to tap into to keep going. So just think about it, as I talk about from time to time, like a buffet line. There's enough for this to eat as it's coming on down. So as we go through the next couple of hours, and I'll show you this on the high-res model, you can even see a difference in the way these look as we go down. Let's see if we have a new model run of this. This is kind of picking up on what's going on now. So let's go forward. There's around 11 o'clock. And then notice how it doesn't have that really defined red edge on there anymore. Sort of starts to mellow and sort of feather out there as we go through the next couple of hours, and then just sort of turn it into rain there. And now you see red like in places like Houston County. Again, that doesn't mean it's going to be like that. That just means we're probably still some heavy rain in some of these spots and some gusty winds. But the severe threat should be coming down, because you notice if I go backwards, it's just got that different look right there coming into the Macon area. So probably at least as far south as Bibb County, still the potential for a severe thunderstorm warning there, and we'll see what it does as it goes on down. Again, it hasn't weakened yet, so it hasn't come down in any sort of intensity just yet. And again, that's the only storm that we were talking about is this one. So what I've been doing again from time to time is just kind of checking in on the hail core for the most part to see if that's kind of going up or down. And again, I've seen it fluctuate some tonight, and you can really see on the, let's see, let's stop it right there. All right, so that looks like a lot of heavy rain, and there probably is some heavy rain in there, but also that's hail. So you can really get an indication of where the hail core is once you start to get into those brighter purple shaded areas. And I've seen pictures on the National Weather Service chat tonight of nearly 2-inch diameter hailstones, which is pretty big. This that we're seeing right now looks to be upwards of at least 1 inch in diameter. So maybe quarter-size hail coming down. And that's mainly going to be confined with that core. So if you drag that on south and east, it might hold together enough for Forsyth, at least parts of Monroe County, as we go through the next hour. So again, this warning goes until 10:30. Even though the hail core may be defined to kind of mainly just that center part, all along here, it's the reason why that polygon is so wide, has the potential for strong winds, especially near the center here where we could get maybe 60-mile-per-hour winds. So it's not technically in Jasper County, Monroe County, into Upson County. It'll be getting there before long, so really it's just now starting to enter our area. But this was just sort of a heads up to let you know that severe thunderstorm warning is out there until 10:30, and as we get new information, we'll pass that along to you and everything. So right now we're just kind of waiting for the storm to move more into the polygon area, guys in the booth there. So, if we want to kind of continue on until this gets a little more in, or whatever it is you want to do, we can do that because it's still not quite in the Monroe County area. Upson County, again, Jasper County there. So we're going to send it back over to you guys. I'm going to continue to watch information since it's not fully changing just yet. And again, we're not talking about tornadoes all over the place. So this is kind of just a thing that's going to take some time to come on through, guys.
All right, we'll check back in as needed. Thanks very much, Ben. Drivers are now moving across Macon's Tucker Road Bridge after several days of detours.
Our crew just confirmed traffic is flowing again and the detours are over. Jasmine Lee joins us in studio to tell us more.
Frank and Lori, the Tucker Bridge has been closed for 3 days, causing delays for drivers in the area. I was there at 5 when they extended the closure, but just drove over it a little over an hour ago and traffic was back moving. There was no traffic light set up yet, but crews have been working for 3 days to get the main power pole back up. This comes after a truck being towed fell over the bridge Monday night and knocked down the power pole and cut power for thousands. Mike Kaplan lives nearby. He told me he normally gets to work in 10 minutes, but when the traffic and detours, it took him over 30 minutes during the closure.
It's been 3 days now, and the traffic has been kind of absurd in certain areas around here because there's only certain ways to get over. I live in the Tobesofka area, so getting there has been a real challenge. But listen, those guys are doing the best they can out there. It was a terrible mess, and I think the bridge people are actually doing some work while the road is closed anyways.
I did speak to other people nearby Tucker Road, and they were happy to see the traffic back moving. Back to you.
No, a lot of folks are happy about that. Thank you, Jasmine. And that's not the only bridge closed for repairs in Macon. The Georgia Department of Transportation told us the 2nd Street Bridge will remain closed for a few more days, and the bridge over Bass Road will be closed until August. The United States has nearly 2 million people in prison at any given point, one of the highest rates in the world. That's according to the Prison Policy Initiative. And for some Americans, transitioning back to life after serving a sentence is not always easy.
Celine Arif shares how a former inmate is using some of her experiences to help others through a community walk.
Now, next week's prayer walk will start and end here at Southern Pines Park in Dublin. And helping organize the walk is one woman who knows personally how much a second chance can help.
In November of 20, I was released from federal prison after serving 10 years in federal prison for wire fraud. And when I got out, it was a little different because society has changed so much from being incarcerated after 10 years.
Melissa Johnson spent about 25 years in and out of jails and prison, but she left prison and found her purpose. Now she works as a forensic peer mentor, helping incarcerated folks transition back to society. She says the prayer walk she's planning is about so much more than prayer. It's about connecting former inmates with community and resources like housing and jobs.
People can change and people can do better. So sometimes we just have to give them that chance and just believe that they can be successful.
And she wants you to remember, your past does not have to define your future. Reporting in Dublin, Celine Arif, 13 WMAZ News.
Now, the prayer walk is next Thursday. It'll start at 6:30 p.m. at Southern Pines Regional Park in Dublin. It is for anyone who has been incarcerated and their families. 6 people died after a helicopter crash into the Hudson River.
We'll share the latest about the recovery efforts in New York City and what we know about the victims.
All right, severe thunderstorm warning until 10:30. There may be more of these as we go through tonight if this storm doesn't weaken, and it has not done so far. That's a hail core in there right there. Not far from starting to move on into Monroe County. Let's talk more about it coming up after the break.
As we come back, we're taking a live look over the scene where a helicopter crashed into the Hudson River this afternoon. New York City officials say everyone on board has died. The victims, 3 adults and 3 children.
We do want to warn you the crash video coming up is graphic. Bradley Blackburn reports tonight from the scene in Manhattan.
The man who shot this video, Bruce Wall, says he saw the helicopter break apart in the air before it crashed into the Hudson River near Hoboken, New Jersey.
The tail came off and then just flipped over in midair and started falling into the ground. Propeller's still propelling.
Other witnesses gave similar descriptions of the chopper plunging a few feet from the shore.
The helicopter was a little bit like nose down slightly, and I saw the propeller separating from the helicopter. It kept spinning in the air alone. Nothing was attached to it.
The NYPD says a family on board was visiting from Spain.
It's very sad to hear that people coming from vacation and then they end up this way.
The NYPD received numerous 911 calls reporting the crash just after 3 p.m. Within minutes, NYPD and FDNY dive teams went into the Hudson and recovered all the victims from the water.
When an emergency like this happens and strikes, this team responds with expert speed and professionalism.
4 of the victims were pronounced dead on scene, and 2 others died at the hospital. The Bell 206 chopper was flying with New York Helicopters Tour Company. New York City Mayor Eric Adams says helicopter rides are generally safe.
We take thousands of tourist flights. There are many flights that are here, and helicopters are safe.
The National Transportation Safety Board will investigate what caused the crash. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
A charter helicopter crashed into the East River, New York City in 2018, killing 5 people. And the collision between a plane and a tourist helicopter over the Hudson River in 2009 left 9 people dead. Time now to check back in with Chief Meteorologist Ben Jones with an update on the storms heading this way.
Yeah, guys, a little more clarification on some of this with this thunderstorm warning. Let me put that on the frozen lube right there. Yes, it is issued because of wind. There could be 50+ mile-an-hour winds in there, but that's not the main reason. The main reason is because of the hail, actually, is one of the main things. So we could be looking at $half size hailstones with that. Again, that wouldn't affect everybody along that, but in that sort of purple shaded area right there. So as we come on down, it's kind of rolling down 75 or just a little bit west of it, paralleling the interstate. So this would come on down into Monroe County in just a little bit. Again, typical stuff for this time of year. So this is not anything crazy, and we're not looking at some sort of a tornado event or anything like that. Having said that, we have had reports of some trees down farther toward the north and west, Douglas, Fulton County, places like that. So far, the hail core on this scan looks a little lower and smaller. Hopefully that's a trend. We'll see about it. That's coming up next. Okay, everything kind of going to plan. What we thought would be the case tonight is a severe threat that's not high. It's not 0, though. And again, we're only dealing with 1 severe thunderstorm warning, but this storm has a little bit of a kick to it. We're looking at a hail core that's been in there at times. It's been going up 2 inches diameter. The potential at any given moment has been up to maybe $half size. I'm not so sure we're seeing that now. The latest scan I saw just a moment ago, those hailstones look a little bit smaller, but it's not done. And the potential for strong gusty winds along this here. And you can actually see an outflow boundary here. Gives you an idea that even if you're in the Forsyth area or any of these places, Monroe County heading toward Bibb, you may already have a wind gust coming down from the north and west there. So let's do a little bit of zooming around here. I'm going to stop the loop so that we can see, again, that's rain in there, yes, but that's also when you see that purple like that, that's a good indication of where that hail core is. It's just a bigger return. The radar sending a signal and coming back with something that's not just raindrops. I mean, there's hailstones in there. And once again, it's a good gauge of the potential strength of a severe thunderstorm warning. The analogy I used earlier was like if you had just a little small leaf blower and you were trying to keep a golf ball in a tube, you know, you wouldn't hold it up very much. But if you had a really strong commercial leaf blower holding that golf ball up, it would. So the stronger that updraft is, the bigger the storm, the bigger the hailstone it can support. So it's a good indicator of the overall muscle of the storm. All right, so let's check in with that hail core and see that it looks down to me a little. I do see a little bit of yellow still trying to show up in there. So we will ask that yellow pixel right there, and it says anywhere from 3/4 to an inch in diameter. So that again is kind of running down parallel with 75. If you were going to be on the interstate in a little bit, especially the way the interstate kind of knocks this way, it may kind of run right down the interstate, which of course can do some damage to windshields, especially if you're doing 75 miles an hour going this way and the storm's moving 50 mile an hour going this way with those hailstones coming down. So if you'd planned to get on the interstate in Monroe County heading toward Atlanta or anywhere, you know, in that area anytime soon, I'd probably hold off on that until this thing either comes on down or weakens. So just starting to cross over into the Monroe County area with the hail map. Now again, the hail data also comes in a little bit delayed. So this may actually be a little bit more here. It's just the nature of the product. It's not as real time as some of the radar stuff. Also, we talked about the severe threat or the storm outlook that we've been talking about for the past couple of days. There was a level 1 for a good chunk of our area, and then a level 2, which started just outside of Monroe and Jasper County. Storm Prediction Center decided to pull that on down a little bit. And again, we're not going to just focus too much on that line. It doesn't mean that these storms obey that switchover, but the thinking is still there that these would weaken down as they come on in. But also, keep in mind the original timing for a lot of this was midnight, 1, 2 in the morning. When it was cooler and cooler, we'd lost a lot of the heat of the day. These are running a little bit faster and a little bit ahead of schedule here. So this is moving in still to a somewhat warm environment, not like it was during the day today. But this leading storm has enough fuel to keep going. These others have been kind of feathering out into just general storms. This is severe over in Alabama, but that looks like that's going to run more toward Columbus there. So we'll see if another warning is issued. There's only 8 minutes left on this warning, and it's mainly for that hail core is one of the main reasons they issued it. I would imagine if it stays on this course, and so far it's not weakening a ton, that we'll probably see another one come out in a little bit that would be for Jones County, Bibb, Crawford, maybe Peach, parts of Houston, and Twiggs if this continues this way. So far nothing, but it may happen in a little bit. All right, coming back. Okay, again, that severe thunderstorm warning still in play for Monroe County, Upson, parts of Crawford, the western parts of at least the tip of Jones County, Jasper County here. And again, one of the main reasons it was issued is because of the hail core that is in the center of the storm, which is looking like it's moving more and more into Forsyth now. So got some pretty good movement on this. It's all moving toward the southeast at around 50 miles per hour. So again, inside that purple shaded area, yes, obviously there's rain in there, but some of that, what the radar is picking up on is hailstones actually. So anywhere in this area, and now it looks like it's kind of running down 75. Good idea not to get on I-75 in Monroe County right now, because as I mentioned earlier, especially if you're driving at a high speed heading, well, you know, this part of the interstate northwest, and this is coming southeast, and you got a storm moving at 50 and you're doing 70, and then these hailstones that could be an inch, you know, in diameter. We've seen them, you know, bigger than that at times. Let's check in on the hail core now and see if that's come down any. It fluctuates from time to time. You can see where it's back here, especially around Griffin in the 1 inch plus area, and then it's been kind of coming down. So I like the trend there. And again, that is supposed to be the trend tonight, so saith the models, is that these things would eventually start to weaken down. This is not out of severe thunderstorm area just yet, at least as far as the Weather Service is concerned, because usually at this point, and maybe as I'm speaking this will happen if it's going to, but once you get within a few minutes of the warning expiring, and this one goes until 10:30, you would go ahead and see another polygon come out to just extend this out. So that would be like Crawford, Bibb, Jones County, places like that. So far we haven't seen that. Been very magical at times where we talked about this and pointed at it, and all of a sudden a yellow polygon showed up. So far that is not the case. Gusty winds, as we mentioned, yes, even as these storms come on down tonight, even if they do weaken down some, we'll still have some periods of heavy rain, maybe some small hail in there and some gusty winds, but we're just trying to get down out of the severe thunderstorm criteria. And hopefully this is a good sign that we're 3 minutes out from this warning expiring and we haven't seen anything go to, you know, an extension on that. Okay, we're coming right back. Okay, a moment ago I was looking at the chat room. There it goes. I knew as soon as I said that was going to happen. The new severe thunderstorm warning is coming out as we speak. We'll probably hear the ding over the speaker here in the studio in just a second. This one will include, obviously, the rest of Monroe County, Bibb County, Jones, Crawford, parts of Peach. There it is. northern Houston, Twiggs, Wilkinson, southern Baldwin. So this is just going to continue down until this thing shows some sign of weakening. This part is going to drop off in just a few seconds, so this will be the only warning that will go on through time. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to continue the stream, 13 WMAZ Plus. We'll keep going with it because we have the warning going, and then we'll see where we are at 11 o'clock tonight. But stay with us right here. I'm going to keep on talking. All right, we're still here. If you're watching on the stream, this is the warning we had before, which should drop off in just a second. It went until 10:30. This polygon will in just a second once the computer catches up to the time on that. Let's see if we can. The new warning, again, if you're just joining us, is for Monroe, Bibb, and all surrounding areas, Jones, Crawford, Peach, Houston, Twiggs, Wilkinson, Southern Baldwin. So the main reason that this storm, severe thunderstorm warning was issued was because mainly the hail core, which has been coming down. At times, it's fluctuated anywhere from 1 inch to 2 inches. I've seen pictures out of the Atlanta area, I mean, with, some pretty big hailstones there. We're talking about, definitely bigger than golf ball size there. So that's one of the reasons why that was issued, and some gusty winds along that. Once again, we're not seeing anything rotating with this. This is a straight line wind situation, so this is more, think, severe thunderstorm warning as opposed to tornado warning. Of course, you don't want any severe weather, but if this is the only cell we're dealing with tonight, and that looks to be the case, then we'll take that. As we zoom back out and just kind of move over here into Alabama, just to show you, they have storms, let's see if I can get that to move, that are also moving toward the south. And this is kind of going right along with what the models were showing earlier. This severe thunderstorm warning, again, most of this is running down the state line toward Columbus. So the main one we're concerned with is what's coming through now. So again, it's running a little bit ahead of schedule. I think, from what I can tell, it looks ahead of schedule, which is a good thing too, because, we've had some of these overnight situations, and nobody wants to do that every time we get some severe weather to come in. And again, when you compare it back to what we just saw this past weekend or some of the other events, this is not that same kind of case. So this is not where we're looking at tornado warnings just dancing all over the place. Again, it's April. Could you ever see a brief spin up in some of these kind of things? Sure you could. I mean, the chance is very small, though. It's on the lower end of that. We never rule that out this time of year. But mainly you can see as it's starting to get into our radar side a little bit better too. Look at the outflow right here. So Milledgeville, you probably have already had the wind coming on in out ahead. Even though that's not severe, I just wanted to show you that you could feel the wind from any of these thunderstorms ahead of time. But again, this is the main part, is the center of that. So let's check in with first we want to ask it the question about when does this one expire? This one goes until 11:15 unless it starts to kind of calm down a little bit and the Weather Service decides that they want to kind of go ahead and cancel that one out. All right, so we'll take that off the map. We're going to ask the hail questions, and again, this looks better to me. I mean, there's still a hail core in there. Weather Service seeing something enough that they wanted to keep the warning. It has fluctuated at times. We're looking at maybe a 1/2 inch to 3/4 at any given time with the hail core there. And again, that is running kind of parallel to the interstate. And again, sometimes the hail data has a little bit of a lag to it, meaning that it's about every 5-10 minutes, something like that, we'll get an update on this. So if you were watching this and then a few minutes later you would see this jump down to here. It's not quite as regular an update as what we see with the actual radar shot coming through. Having said that, so for Scythe and toward the south and west of there could be some hail that's coming down. And of course, we're watching this, and of course our producers in the booth, if any sort of pictures or anything like that are coming in, we would pass those along to you. If you were in one of those areas, obviously don't go out while it's happening. But if you went out after that and you were on your back porch and you saw some hailstones, you might want to get a picture of it. Some of them have been kind of small. Some of them I've seen have been golf ball size, quarter size, some of them higher. Some of them we've seen back in the Atlanta area nearly 2 inch in diameter. That's not what we're seeing right now. So this is mainly just sort of a typical, to me, severe thunderstorm warning that's coming down. And it is the only one that we can see. Again, the hail core tells you the story about where the storms are that are of any interest. And the brighter this gets, the bigger and heavier the hailstone is. So once again, it takes a lot of wind to keep something up that's heavy. So the updraft of a big, tall thunderstorm is going to hold those bigger hailstones in place. If you have a weakening or decaying thunderstorm, it's going to get to where those hailstones get smaller because they're not being thrown up in the chamber up there. You know, a hailstone goes up and it goes up above, you know, way up high enough to where it goes below freezing, gets a layer of ice on it, falls back down, will get rain, get wet on it, so there's a layer, gets kicked back in the updraft, goes back up again, and we'll keep doing this, and each time a layer freezes, a layer freezes, a layer freezes, and that's how these hailstones get bigger and bigger. So if it is a decaying storm, oh, thank you, Megan. If it is we're streaming, so this is not live TV, right? We can do this. If it's a decaying storm, then this is one that you're going to see, you know, smaller hailstones generally as we go along. So that kind of gives us an indication of the strength of the storm. So what we want to see is that coming down, and as far as I can tell, that looks smaller, and let's see if you think the same thing. As we back this up, notice how farther back, especially here, as we were crossing over between Griffin and Barnesville here, we were looking at easily an inch or more in diameter there, and we actually, some of these cells up in northwest Georgia, when they were first starting in the heat of the day, they were getting more up. We were getting some greens and blues in there with some 2-inch diameter. So that is not the case now. This is the way it looked a little bit earlier when that severe thunderstorm warning kicked off. But notice as we go forward in time, still some hail, but hopefully, eventually, it's a trend that's going to show that shrinking down. Okay, so let's look at it from the radar perspective again. And you can get an idea, again, where you see that purple shaded area. Let's see if I can make this a 1-hour loop. So we're not waiting for it to come down. That purple shaded area, sure, that's rain in there, but that's also a good indication of where the hail is, because think about it, if you're shooting a radar beam out there, the way radar works is just like you throw a tennis ball out, you don't know where that wall is, and you wait for when it hits the wall and comes back to you, and that tells you how far away something is. And then the more of these little walls you're hitting, rain, drops and things like that, that will show up as more and more bigger returns. So you're going to get brighter colors. If you have more hailstones in there, it's more of just these bigger solid objects. And so it's going to come back with this purple shaded area. And again, that's kind of running down, if not right along 75, at least next to it toward the south and west there. So I talked about it earlier in the 10 o'clock show. If you were going, that stretch of 75 is not going north, that's going northwest. So probably not the best idea to be on that stretch in Monroe County heading, say, toward Atlanta. Because if you're doing 70 going this way, this storm's going southeast at 50 and it's slinging down hail. It's not really good for the car in the windshield there. So pull over, just wait this thing out. Once again, big picture, to look at this as some of the other things that we have seen this spring and what you could definitely see in the middle of April. Right, we're smack dab in the middle of severe weather season right now. You could easily have, tornado stuff every time one of these comes through. Again, we don't rule that out in these cases. Sometimes you can still have a brief spin up along some of these, but this is generally a straight line wind event. So this is more of still not fun. I mean, it's still, maybe some tree limbs down, power lines, things like that, but it's more of a straight motion as opposed to something that's rotating and spinning out there. So again, also running a little bit ahead of schedule. This was originally looking like maybe we could get a storm or two in the 10 o'clock hour, but then maybe it would still be midnight 1, 2 before it really started to settle on in. So again, I don't think it's going to hurt anybody's feelings if we can kind of get this train on through here and not have to sit up into the late hours here. So if this will just kind of come on down, again, it's going to take some time to clear our area, and it also doesn't mean that if you're in any of these other places, Dublin, Hawkinsville, that it's still going to be like this. It might still be a little bit strong, but this warning could also drop off because, again, the plan is that this should be weakening some as it comes on down. It's just this one cell in the middle that's being a little stubborn and saying, I'm not ready to go to bed just yet. So that's the reason why this one is still kicking it. Again, this warning goes until 11:15. Let's take a look at the velocity, because I've had some questions on the stream. I had some earlier tonight, about, because it's still spin up. Are we seeing anything like that? We're not seeing any rotation along this. This is generally, notice how it just kind of bows like this. There are some gusty winds in there. I got to be honest with you, lately, and I could look at another product here, I haven't seen as much in the way of widespread wind for, you know, the whole width of that polygon. But I mean, in any of these given areas here, you could have maybe have 50, 60 mile per hour winds, parts of Monroe County, western Jones County right there. And then if that holds, that would come on into Bibb. One of the main reasons that I can see that they issued this is because of the hail impact with that. And again, that looks to be getting somewhat lower. All right, I'm going to take the warning layer off so we can ask it a question about this wind. And it's still showing potential for around 60 mile per hour winds, 60 to 70 here, although that wasn't, that I saw mentioned in the warning. So yeah, some strong winds, let's just call it that. Potential for strong winds and still some hail. This map I'm showing you is the storm outlook map. And if you'll remember, the way we started looking at it over the past few days was it was all yellow up here, down to Atlanta, and just outside of our area with a level 2. So that's a little higher level for severe threat. And then once it got to about where my hand is, it started to drop into green for level 1. What the Storm Prediction Center did a little while ago is to drag that 2 on down. And again, we don't get caught up in where that line is. These storms don't, you know, respect the map and say, oh, no, I'm in South Macon now, I got to calm down. That's not the way it works. But the general idea is that these should start to weaken as we go on farther toward the south. We're just waiting for this one in the middle to do that, and it hasn't fully done it yet. Let's go check the hail again. That looks better. Yeah, that's much smaller. So that's around the Bolingbroke area there, 75, 475 split. Again, we've seen this cell fluctuate a little bit at times where the hail core will kind of regenerate and sort of stir back up. But this is the point when this should be, when you look at all the ingredients or lack thereof, this should be kind of the time when we would see this to sort of weaken down. Let's take a look at the big picture. And what you'll see is watches and warnings on this. I got questions earlier tonight on the chat about what are the big yellow boxes, or this is severe thunderstorm watch in here, which obviously this is already, you know, kind of outrunning the watch box. There's another watch here, and you can see the individual polygons are severe thunderstorm warnings. So this is a pretty typical spring setup right here of severe thunderstorm warnings. Again, we're not seeing, you notice how it's all yellow instead of red. Again, I'd rather see that. Straight line winds, get them through, get the line through and get done. All these little red polygons with independent supercells and tornadoes, that's kind of stuff you don't want to see. And that's not what we're seeing with this. All right, let's take a look at the high-res model and see if it has come in. All right, it's kind of picking up on where we are here. Let's go forward. And this is kind of running on time. 11 o'clock, coming on down. Again, there's midnight. And again, just the look has changed at this point. So once we get midnight to 1, yeah, there may be a little bit of a bow with some wind, but you don't see as much of those sharp red curved lines where it's just a wind throwing out like that. So it's a little bit more of a feathered out look as we go through the rest of tonight into tomorrow morning. So eventually it will all weaken down. So if you're in our southern counties or southern half, again, I do expect that this will eventually calm down. I mean, we'll see how far this warning goes south and east, but every time I keep looking at the hail parameter, at least, that's looking better and better. Let's check it again and see if a new scan has come in. There it is right there. Still a little bit of color in there, crossing over Monroe into North Bibb now. So this would be 75. So, you know, you get out there for Forsyth Road, Howard High School, going to run Zebulon Road here. There may start to be some hailstones coming down. Again, they're not the biggest ones I've ever seen, but we could have maybe a ½ inch diameter. Again, this hail map is a little bit delayed. And again, if I sat here showing it for a minute, you would see what I'm talking about. Once the new data comes in, for whatever reason, it's like every 5-10 minutes, something like that. Once the new package comes in, it may actually be here, but because of the movement of the storm. It's just it's a snapshot moment in time, and it's minutes away before it brings that home again. So that's the reason I kind of go around the horn and I come back and check on it again. Let's see here. Let's take a look. This is going to be, which Skycam do I have pulled up here? That's Perry. All right. What we're going to do here is we're going to change cameras because now it's getting in close enough. At least with the Macon Skycam, we ought to be able to see at least some of the lightning in the distance and get an idea of what it looks like. But that Perry Skycam tells part of the story. Notice how those winds are going to the right side of the screen. That's a southerly flow out ahead of the storms. So that is that warm, somewhat, not super, but somewhat muggy air feeding, going up 75 north into these storms. So there's enough ingredients there that it's these things have something still to tap into. But if we were to watch this for a while, after the storm rolls through, those flags would whip around the other way. All right, what we're about to do is switch to the Macon Skycam. That should be about to come up. There it is right there. And what I'm going to do, it's one of all these are our new cameras now. They have a great look, but man, did they move fast when you start to swing them around. So get your Dramamine ready. This is starting to kind of swing around. Let's see, it's looking over the medical center. Yeah, okay. So off in the distance, you can start to see that. We're on the heart tower at the medical center. And we're looking pretty much north, a little bit north-northwest right there. You'll see these lightning flashes coming around. I see them before you do. There's a little bit of delay. All right, I went too far that way. We're going to go back this other way because we can kind of see it better right where the pole for this camera is, but got to have a pole to hold up your camera, so it's got to be somewhere. But you can kind of get the idea behind it of the lightning coming in. So again, just stay away from windows as this is coming through. We'll get it on through here in short order and be done with it. Let me get us back down to the radar shot. We'll check back in on that camera in just a second. This is going to be, come on baby, load. This is showing you that it's pretty much all in the Bibb County area. Again, it's got some pretty good movement on it. So this is in the Macon area now. And the heart of it, the core of any sort of hail core that's out there is running straight through Macon here. So again, if you're in any of these areas, I wouldn't get out there trying to take pictures or anything right now, but you know, as that comes along, and of course our producers are going around the horn, looking at our weather network page, you know, all the different ways you could send those sort of things in to us. And if we get some pictures of hailstones and things like that, we'll pass them along to you. That's one of the main reasons why this warning was issued. Yes, there are gusty winds, but from some of the verbiage I've seen, a lot of it was with hail. There's that new scan. It's not overly impressive to me. You may get a little bit of hail out of there, but let's see. This shows maybe a ½ inch in diameter. So, as I mentioned earlier, we'll see how, I'm not sure how long ago. Notice these scans, how they kind of jump. So this is the most recent one we have. It's about every 10 minutes. So right now, this is for Scythe Road, kind of running down. So Howard High School there. Again, we're not talking about a tornado or anything like this. This is a severe thunderstorm warning with some gusty winds and some hail in there and some pretty frequent lightning too. So this is out near Howard. Oh, and our favorite detour, thanks to the Bass Road Bridge. So this would be even slower going if this were happening during school time. But it's right around that area, about to cross over Bass Road in a little bit. Kind of paralleling 41 for now. The reason I'm showing you this is the main center of this thing if you want to, and then there's a little bit more up toward the north of that. So eventually all this will be crossing Bass Road in a little bit. Again, it's not the most impressive severe thunderstorm warning I've seen, and actually it's starting to look like it's weakening down some to me. Just so in case anybody else is wondering, we've been leaving these areas out. I know you have thunderstorms and rumbling and all that stuff going on in Lake St. Clair and Milledgeville. The reason I'm not talking about this is because none of this is severe. So all this that's coming through anywhere from Putnam, Hancock, into Baldwin, places like that, that's not severe. Now, it's mainly, really the main part of this is what's coming right through the Macon-Bibb area right now. And again, if you look at that purple shaded area, and again, with the way the radar works is it sends out that beam, any sort of object that's out there is going to bounce back off. It tells it how far away it is. And the more of those objects there are, then it says, okay, there's a lot of raindrops there. That's a heavier rain. If there are hailstones in there, obviously that's a bigger surface and more for these the beam to hit and come back. So sometimes you'll see what looks like incredibly heavy rain, and there might be some heavy rain in there, but there's probably a decent amount of hail in some of that as well. All right, so we just had a flash, a power bump here at the station, so we may be on backup generator. I'm not sure what that was. Maybe that was them switching over. Let's check the hail core again. Again, probably kind of running up and down Bass Road now. So this is going to be more Bass to You see FPD in Stratford on there, more through the FPD area. Okay, producer Maggie saying that our Skycam is lighting up pretty good with the, let's take a look at that. Let me move this out of the way. Yeah, oh, wow. Watch this one that's about to come across here. Yeah, it's a pretty crazy lightning out there. So, you know, pretty typical severe thunderstorm warning that's coming in. We kind of, man, this camera moves fast. You can see as we're looking out over, I'm about to move it back to the left here. We're going to look over more kind of Coleman Hill area. Here comes a pretty good strike. Again, I'm seeing it a few seconds before it pops up on the wall here. Let's go swing it back around over the top of the hospital here. I'm going to swing back toward the west to northwest here a little bit. Yeah, so obviously a pretty good lightning show with it. The severe thunderstorm warning still goes until 11:15. We'll see if that continues. If the National Weather Service starts seeing that this thing may look like it's sort of weakening down, then we will see them let that warning expire, or sometimes if it really starts to ramp down, they'll just cancel it out. That's not the case yet. It's a fast mover because I can already hear it here on our roof. So yeah, it's moving at a pretty good clip southeast at around 50. And again, some gusty winds possible with that. Let's check the hailstone. I'm just doing a round robin, going around, keep checking the different things. Let me save that there so we can easily pull that up. So again, that last scan, probably running down for Scythe Road now. That is, if that stays on that path, this will be running through kind of the Idlehour area down for Scythe Road. Sort of paralleling for Scythe Road, pretty much, is what this is doing. Coming up on Wesleyan College. Again, these scans sometimes is a little bit delayed, so this may actually be a little more here by now. It looks like small hail to me right now, as far as I can tell. Collinsworth, if you can you take this full for a second to give me an opportunity to walk over here? I want to check something on it. Yeah, you just make me disappear. That'll work. I just want to check the chat over on this other box for a second. I can't get it to pull up on this, but just to see if there's any wording on there. Let's see. Okay, Butts County said they had small hail behind some heavy wind, few power outages, but no damage reports. So that's when the storm was even bigger toward the north and west. So signs that the storms may be starting to lose some steam. Let's hope that trend continues. So saith the National Weather Service. So that's a good thing. And we're seeing it here again with these maps. Again, that hail core is not gone, but it is, I mean, it's still there. But still not the biggest hailstones, but probably a ½ inch in diameter, something like that. Now, we have seen on this last scan that that's sort of broadened out a little bit more, because if I go back a little bit, you can see it was around Wesleyan College there. It was a little bit smaller, and now it's kind of broadened out again. So a good chunk of right through the core of Macon with this storm coming in. Let's take a look at our Skycam. I'm just interested now that it's downtown getting that way, if we can. Yeah, it's coming down pretty good. You get to use the windshield wiper on this new camera. All right, so yeah. As they say, precipitating with great vigor. So a lot of rain. The wind is in there as well. See if I can get that to focus for you a little bit better. And the hail, we're trying to see if we can get a better look at it here with the camera. Let's take the wiper. Trying to see if I can see hailstones in there. There's a roof. Hard to tell. Either way, it's a pretty good bit of rain going through there and definitely a lot of lightning. Zoom the map back out. Just too hard to tell from there. So yeah, this is the core of the storm coming through downtown now. So the lightning flashing all over the place. I can definitely hear it on our roof here. So you can follow the trees down here and see that we have some pretty decent wind going with this. I would say maybe at least some wind gusts of around 50. It seems like I've seen some maybe a little bit higher than that, but hopefully signs that these storms are starting to weaken, as the Weather Service said just a moment ago. All right, so we'll go around the horn again. We're going to check in on the, let's do the hail core first, because again, that's a pretty good indicator of the strength of the storm. And that is still showing potential for some pretty decent hail out there. Inch in diameter. Again, it's a wide field is what I'm saying when I say pretty decent. I mean, there's still enough of this holding together. It's not high up on the scale. It's somewhere in the half-inch diameter, but you may get at least somewhere in that area size hail, to pea-size hail, maybe a little bit bigger in some of this. And again, you can kind of see it with that hail core in the purple shaded area. Some of this, a lot of it's rain, obviously got a ton of rain, but some of that in there could be some hail as well. That severe thunderstorm warning goes for about 19 more minutes until 11:15. Coming up in a few minutes, we're going to do what we did at the 10 o'clock show. We're going to seamlessly transition right into the 11 o'clock news at 10:59:50, I'm being told. Thank you, Producer Maggie. So let's do a kind of, and I'll do this again once the show starts up, just to show you that everything is sort of going along to plan. It's just going a little sooner, or earlier, I guess I should say, than what we were originally looking at. We thought it was going to be 10, 11 o'clock, but then it would be still kind of lagging. Midnight, 1, somewhere in this area, 1 to 2. So we're just coming up on 11 o'clock, and it's already kind of slicing through the first half of our area because it's moving at a pretty good clip. Again, southeast at around 50. As we look at the bigger picture, just to show you that we're not alone, there are storms that are coming up and down, all the way down this line, all the way through Alabama and over into South Carolina, but things clearing on the back side of that. So let's go back and look at that Skycam again. Yeah, a ton of rain. It is really coming down here on the studio because we're way out that way from the camera here, but the lightning show has been pretty intense. Again, some of that, most of that rain, but there could be some hail in there, but don't let it stop those people driving across First Street right there. They're doing just fine. We can move the camera up just a little bit. You can probably hear it through my microphone right here. I think it's pouring more here on the east side of town than it is downtown now. Most of that's already come through downtown. All right, let's check the hail again. That's been pretty much the pulse of the storm the whole time, and that really hasn't totally relented all the way from Tennessee. Well, it looks better. Again, we've seen the better a few times, though. Frank, you going to do a hail check? Frank's going outside to do a hail check. He's our official checker. So that is right over downtown. You can see with the hail core right there. So here we are. So that would line up with the heavy rain that we've had coming down as well. Be careful out there, Frank. We need you to come back. Show starts in a minute and a half. Lori, be on standby. Okay, so there is a look at the radar shot. Again, anywhere in the purple is heavy rain, but again, some hail mixed in. The movement again is toward the kind of east-southeast at around 50 miles an hour. The last wording from the Weather Service is that it looks like it's weakening down some. Hopefully that's the case and they don't issue another warning. What you got?
Mainly rain.
Mainly rain.
Heavy rain, but you can see a few little pellets.
A couple of little pellets in there. That's the official wording from Frank. Mainly rain with a couple of pellets mixed in, maybe. The official warning, as you can see on the banner up there, goes until 11:15, so that's another 15 minutes on that. And we'll see if they issue another warning after this. There's still time, I mean, another 15 minutes for this thing to weaken down and make its way on into this part of the polygon before they would go with another one. And the last wording was that it looks like it's trying to show signs of weakening, although the hail core is there, and then sometimes it kind of weakens down a little bit, and then it's not there. So again, just the big picture again, just to tell you that this is a better case scenario than what we have seen already this spring. This is not some big tornado outbreak or anything like that. It's a typical line of strong to severe storms that you would see in the springtime. So it's nothing too out of the ordinary. And as we go through the next couple hours, we'll get this on through here. And hopefully this will be our last warning. That would be a nice thing. Again, you can't rule out a tornado thing this time of year, but mainly just straight line winds. So if you're on the Plus app, you've been watching us, stay where you are. We're just going to kind of keep going, but this time we're going to bring in some other actors with Frank and Lori. It's time for the 11 o'clock show. All right. Hey, I feel like I just saw you here. If you were just joining us on the 11 o'clock show, we've been going for a while on our 13 WMAZ Plus app. Were you there? If not, you should go get it. It's for your TV and it's free, and we've been streaming throughout the whole night, and then you have to worry about where all these places you can watch this. It's all in that one spot. So if you've been on the stream, thanks for watching us. For those that are just joining us, this is a severe thunderstorm warning. That is the second one that we have seen. You can see them trimming it back right now. See how it glows like that? That means they're making an update to it, so it's kind of sizzling for a minute. That means they are cutting this back part off because that main part of the cell has already come through there. So that part's going to go away. Still, the rest of this in the glowing section forward goes until 11:15. That beep we hear overhead just means they made a change to that and they just dropped off that part there. So this continues until 11:15 through Bibb. It's been coming through the downtown Macon area. A good chunk of all of Macon-Bibb. I mean, the center of this went right through Macon. When I say the center of this, I'm not talking about a tornado. This is not a tornado type of event. Can't rule it out. It's April. It's never a really zero chance. But you can see a little brief spin up sometimes in these things, but this is mainly all straight line winds. So this is kind of just a typical springtime line of storms that could be a little bit strong to severe. We've seen wind gusts 50, 60 at times in some of these places. Most of what this was issued for was for the hail core in the storm, which has been large at times going back into northwest Georgia, even coming out of Tennessee. And you can see there's still a hail core there, now leaving through the downtown area and moving more into Twiggs County. So this is kind of crossing over. We're running parallel again with another interstate, this time I-16. So if you're going to be on the 16, say heading in toward Macon, or going the other way, not a really good idea because there's still the potential for some hail in there. The hail size does not look gargantuan. I mean, I've seen definitely worse than this. This has generally been running about a ½ inch in diameter right there every time I check in on that. And as we look at the velocity map, the reason I want to show you this is because we get the questions about, have we seen anything spin up on that or anything? No, and you can see that I'd show you, if you follow these things, red and green tight together in a little couplet, it's going to mean the wind spinning in different directions relative to where the radar is. So we're not seeing that. There's some gusty wind along there. Again, the main thing has been the hail, which is one of the reasons why the Weather Service issued the warning. All right, so this here that I'm showing you is the storm outlook map. And as we've been going through this week, all the yellow was up here, northwest Georgia, northern Alabama, and it came down about as far as right here outside of Monroe County and then changed to green. So it went from a level 2 down to a level 1. Earlier tonight, the Weather Service was like, these things are still kind of kicking it. Let's drag that yellow down a little bit more into the Bibb County area. And again, these storms don't respect this map. It doesn't mean that it gets 1 foot over into the green and then it starts to immediately weaken down. We hope it'll do that. This yellow stopping here means they've been trimming this down as the storms come down. They just start to get rid of where the storm threat is not so much of a big deal anymore. So that's what that map is. To take a look at the big picture, just to show you that it looks pretty similar to what I'm going to take these watch boxes off because they're kind of irrelevant now and it confuses some folks asking what they are. The yellow polygons that we see there are severe thunderstorm warnings, and you can see that that goes all the way back into Mississippi there. So just different parts of the line have had a little bit of a kick in it. Mississippi has theirs, Alabama has theirs they're having to deal with, and there's one that's kind of right on the state line right there. The main one that we're following, and the only one really, is this one. So if you're in any of our northwestern counties, Putnam, Hancock, and Baldwin, Washington, places like that, if I'm not talking about your area and you're hearing, thunder out there and it's raining, it just means there's nothing severe there. I'm just focusing in on where the severe thunderstorm warning is. We obviously have rain and thunderstorms going on in other spots, but that is the main area. Did you just go do another hail check there, Frank?
Yeah, now the rain is let up here at the station. It's still a little bit windy, but I didn't see any hail.
Official word from Frank, still a little bit windy. The rain has let up a little bit, not the pellets that he saw earlier. That was a pretty good update, Frank, again from the backyard garden. All right, so there is the radar again. It goes until 11:15. If this storm were to show signs that it was kind of weakening down before 11:15, sometimes we've seen that where they decay pretty quickly. They'll go ahead and just cut it loose. But this one still has some hail going on in there, so I think they'll at least allow it to 11:15. If they still think it's got enough kick in it, then they'll throw another yellow polygon and we'll just keep on dancing as we go on down. So far this is leaving Bibb County. It's mainly for twigs. Yes, you're still technically in it. Jones, Wilkinson, on over into parts of Peach and Houston, but it's mainly this part right here into Twiggs County. But I'll do some more checking a little bit. If you see anything going one way or the other, we'll jump in and let you know, guys. We know that this goes for another 10 minutes, but there's other news of the day, right?
That is correct. Thanks a lot, Ben. Let us know when we need to head back to you. Drivers are now moving across Macon's Tucker Road Bridge after several days of detours.
The detours inconvenience thousands of people who travel over that bridge. Jasmine Lee traveled over the bridge tonight, and Jasmine is live in studio to tell us more.
Frank and Lori, the Tucker Bridge has been closed for 3 days, causing delays for drivers in the area. I was there at 5 when they extended the closure, but just drove over it a little over an hour ago and traffic was moving back. There was no traffic light set up yet. Crews have been working for 3 days to get the main power pole back up. This comes after a truck being towed fell off the bridge Monday night and it knocked down the power pole and cut power for thousands. Kay Stephen was visiting Macon when she got stuck in traffic on Tucker Road. She told me it wasn't a good experience as she was trying to visit an old friend.
It was just unreal. I could not live in this traffic. It was just uncomfortable and scary for everybody, I think, with so much traffic to maneuver through.
I did speak to other people nearby Tucker Road, and they were happy to see the traffic back moving. Back to you.
All right, Jasmine, thanks very much. That is not the only bridge closed for repairs in Macon. The Georgia Department of Transportation says the 2nd Street Bridge is still closed and will probably remain that way for a few more days. And of course, the bridge over Bass Road is being worked on. That is scheduled to reopen sometime in August. The family of an inmate who died in the Bibb County Jail speaks out. A Macon Water Authority member calls for an investigation into her own board, and Senate lawmakers hold a hearing on daylight saving time. If you're just catching up on today's news, let's get you up to speed. Attorneys in the family of Stephen Fawcett criticized the district attorney's decision to not charge deputies involved in Fawcett's death. He died nearly a year ago while in custody at the Bibb County Jail. The family says they will now focus on a possible lawsuit. They're also pushing for changes at the jail to improve mental health care for inmates. Elaine Lucas accused the Macon Water Authority staff of misusing credit cards and violating purchasing rules. She also claims the rest of the authority is keeping information from her and fellow board member Desmond Brown. She's asking the public to sign a petition opposing new rate increases, and she's asking for an audit. She says they should have their own house in order before raising water rates. A Senate hearing focused on whether the U.S. should continue to change the clock twice a year. Committee members pointed to research suggesting the biannual ritual has a major impact on the economy and public health in a negative way. They say the clock change leads to higher rates of heart attacks, strokes, and even car accidents. President Trump expressed support for ending daylight saving time back in December.
Tonight, investigators are trying to figure out what caused a deadly helicopter crash in New York. Officials confirmed everyone on board died, including 3 adults and 3 children. The NYPD says the family on board was visiting from Spain. Police received numerous 911 calls reporting the crash just after 3 p.m. Within minutes, dive teams went into the Hudson River and recovered all the victims from the water. New York police say first responders did everything they could to save the family.
You can see the trauma in their face. They did everything they can, and they wanted me to make sure that I made that public. They really tried their hardest.
Officials say the flight was operated by New York helicopters. The helicopter was a Bell 206, a model widely used in commercial and government aviation.
In state news, authorities say a Clayton County inmate is on the loose after he was mistakenly released from jail. On Tuesday, officials notified the county's district attorney about how they could not find Kathan Guzman. He's convicted of killing his 19-year-old girlfriend in August of 2022. Delilah Grayson was strangled to death in the apartment she shared with Guzman. Last year, a jury found Guzman guilty on a felony murder charge. He was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. The DA says her office told the victim's mother about Guzman's release. The U.S. Marshal Service is currently assisting in the search for Guzman.
New tonight, the Bureau of Justice Statistics says about 60% of formerly incarcerated people struggle with unemployment. And it's not just jobs. People reentering society after a sentence can also struggle with things like housing and finding a welcoming community.
Celine Arif introduces us to one woman who is using her experiences to help others find their purpose after prison.
Freedom is something some people take for granted. Not Militia Johnson. From age 20 to about 45, she's been in and out of jail and prison serving time for financial crimes.
In November of 20, I was released from federal prison after serving 10 years in federal prison for wire fraud. And when I got out, it was a little different because society has changed so much from being incarcerated after 10 years.
She's now planning a Road to Second Chances prayer walk because she knows more than maybe anyone how hard finding your footing can be after serving time.
And I received 4 promotions within 2 years, but it was because of that employer that gave me a second chance to work. And so because of that, that's how I got the job that I have now.
Now she's a peer mentor at a prison, preparing folks who are transitioning out of prison and back to a new normal life.
So sometimes we just have to give them that chance and just believe that they can be successful. But when you got somebody standing behind you and when you have somebody supporting you, it's easier for them to do right when they know they got support behind them.
And finding God again in prison was a huge part of her redemption story. So at the walk, along with resources, will be church leaders.
We're just going to just have a good time. We're going to walk, we're going to pray, we're going to share stories. And we're just going to be there to support our community.
There will also be housing and job resources at the walk. With each step, she hopes people remember their worth and purpose after incarceration.
Everybody needs a chance to begin again. You know, we all make mistakes. You know, some people just didn't get caught for it, but some of us have learned our lessons. And so we need people that's going to stand behind us.
Reporting in Dublin, Celine Arif, 13 WMAZ News.
The prayer walk is next Thursday, 6:30 p.m., Southern Pines Regional Park in Dublin, for anyone who's been incarcerated and their families.
My faith and my kids is what keeping me going right now, keeping me strong.
A Macon mom trying to stay strong after losing her home to a fire.
We'll hear from her as she mourns the place she once called home.
Well, a new severe thunderstorm warning coming out as we speak. This one is for Twiggs, Wilkinson, Washington, Johnson, Lawrence, and Pulaski. I'm not really sure why, because there's not much of a hail core there at all. But hey, let's explore it. Coming up after the break. Okay, a new severe thunderstorm warning. If you missed it before the break, it is, and just really continuation of this same storm here. So it is for Twiggs, Wilkinson, obviously some of Baldwin here, southern parts of Washington, Johnson, Lawrence County, into Bleckley here. I mentioned Pulaski earlier, I meant to say Bleckley. But again, this is mainly because of this area right here. So a wide polygon, you may have some gusty winds on the outside of this, but it's mainly this spot coming through Twiggs toward Jeffersonville right there. Now, I mentioned before the break, the hail core is almost gone. So that's one part of the equation that is not showing up as much. Let me show you the storm here first. This other warning is about to fall off the board. So that would be this one right here. Goes until 11:15. Technically we're at 11:15, but the clock on this computer for some reason is a couple of minutes slow. We'll have to work on that. But anyway, so that's eventually going to drop off. The next one goes until midnight, or unless the thing starts to fall apart. Now to the aforementioned hail core. It was gone completely a minute ago when I looked at it. Let's see, when we go back in time, you can see how it's just sort of, this is when it was over Macon earlier. And I did get video and some pictures from some folks in the Macon area of at least pea-size hail. So it was a pretty good widespread swath of that came through. And then running down I-16 into Twiggs County here, still showing up just a small patch of maybe a few little pea-size hail spots in there heading toward Jeffersonville and Twiggs County. All right, so what we do is go to the velocity mode, because this is one of the reasons why the warning has been issued, and we've seen this from time to time. Not everybody had the super gusty winds. Hail was one of the main reasons, but also if I check in on any of these kind of blue shaded areas, you can see the potential for anywhere 55 to 60 mile per hour winds. So up to 60 for the most part for the severe thunderstorm warning, for the wind being one of the things there. As we look at the big picture, again, you can really see with this cell, and I have it overlaid with the storm risk, the yellow being the, level 2, and then dropping down to a level 1. So yes, just to show you, I mentioned it earlier, it doesn't respect the map here. It's crossing out of the level 2 into the level 1 into the green area, but it still hasn't totally given up the ghost here. So that means it still has enough punch for the National Weather Service to stick with it for a little bit longer. And you can see how it just sort of bows out right there. I mean, it's just kind of like a punch through the line. And this is a storm that was kicking it all the way back into northwest Georgia, even into Tennessee. It's had the same kind of look all the way down for the past few hours. Okay, so we looked at it with that. Let's take a look at the big picture here, just to show you that it's kind of going along with what everything was, the models were showing that we would see, which was kind of a line like this, sort of broken, clustered, dropping toward the south and east. Now, Alabama had a cell earlier that it was looking at that was severe, and there was one back here. Those warnings have dropped off. So there's the one warning over in Mississippi, and then lucky us, we have the other one that's going on here. As far as the track of this, so if we wanted to try to track this out, the general movement, last I checked, it was moving at about 50 miles an hour toward the southeast. So it's got some pretty good giddy up on it. So let's just stop the movement here and then draw along it. And then we'll go toward the east-southeast down at around 50. And I don't even have enough map to do this. And I think, well, it's close enough. Oh, it went to the other map. Live TV, folks. All right, stop zooming. We get it. All right, so we'll go back to the bigger picture, and let me drag it out a little bit farther. This will give me a little more room. Definitely going to include all these places like Dublin and all that. And I mentioned earlier, the farther south and east you are, you may still have part of the storm that's still kind of got a little thump to it, or maybe it's starting to weaken down. We just haven't seen it fully weaken just yet. So these are some of the places in the path that would be in about 30 minutes into the Dublin area, and then eventually crossing on over into places like Trutland County, Soperton area. The reason why I'm kind of showing this is because it's mainly this center part that's had the most, the gustiest winds anyway. Now everybody else, if you go into all these other places, if you're in Sparta or Sandersville, yes, you have rain, you have thunder and all that, but it's not severe, so I'm not leaving you out. Same thing over in Roberta over there in Taylor County. It's just this is the part that has the part that we're wanting to check in on the most. Let's take a look at the hail. Grab the magnifying glass or the binoculars, folks, because that's the only spot I'm seeing hail. Of course, it doesn't mean, so Savage Road, Bullard Road area, it doesn't mean you couldn't see it flare back up in a little bit, but right now that is not one of the big deals, being the hail there. Velocity mode, Again, we've seen wind gusts at times that look like they're 55 to 60, especially right in there. Notice as I go back, you can see some of the blue shaded area north of Jeffersonville, but this latest scan doesn't show as much of that. So it looks like the thing is weakening, and hopefully that's a trend that will continue. So again, technically the warning goes until midnight unless it decides to say, I've had enough. I'm not going to do anything else. Either way, if it doesn't do that, it'll be over the course of the next hour and a half or so. We'll get this on through here and it'll be done. So that means we will not be looking at an overnight thing, which is better. I'm sure nobody wanted to do that. So we'll get the main edge through here. Okay, guys, I think we're going to go, where are we going, Maggie? Going back over here? Yes. Okay, somebody's going to take a look at your power outage map. Is that me or Frank or Lori? There we go.
All righty. All right, power outages, is that what we're talking about? We heard that the area off Zebulon Road, which had some power outages before when that accident happened earlier this week. They are in the midst of some power outages right now.
Oh my goodness, this is really small. It's kind of hard to see, but we are seeing some power outages around the Macon-Bibb area. Less than 2,000.
First Presbyterian Day School, Foster Road. Yeah, that's where Zebulon Foster
Road,
runs off
around
Zebulon. So in that Zebulon Road area, fewer than 2,000 homes.
Looks like from Lake Wildwood over to Northside Drive.
Okay,
Yeah, Lake Wildwood to Northside Drive, Ben is saying, somewhere in that area. So, all right. All right, we're continuing to follow up on a fire that put a family of 12 out of their home. The Bibb County Fire Department says that fire happened Tuesday on Capitol Avenue.
Fire crews extinguished the blaze that left a trail of damage inside the home. Ellie Milliken spoke with the mom who says this isn't the first time she lost her home to flames.
One family now is without a home. I talked to the mom and she tells me she's worried where she's going to go. She doesn't know what's next, but she's going to hold on to faith.
My faith and my kids is what keeping me going right now, keeping me strong.
Strength for 28-year-old Shaquavia Rutledge after her second house fire. She says she has asthma and is on disability as the sole provider for 9 children and her sister and cousin. When she came home around 9 Tuesday night to see her house on fire, she was shocked.
I'm numb, I'm lost, I'm hurt. I just don't know. It's like a feeling that can't be described.
Fire crews stayed on the scene until around 2 a.m., leaving the home with smoke damage, broken down walls, and a mess.
I was crying. People was trying to calm me down, but overall, I was just lost, hurt, because, like, you know, you go from being stable to now not having nothing.
Rutledge says she's determined to keep going.
Plans is to get me and my kids somewhere to stay. Just to get us somewhere to stay, and we just got to start from scratch. You got to start somewhere. So to get to where I need to be.
She says her family is supportive and have helped start a GoFundMe. She did not think another one of her houses would catch on fire.
Never thought it, especially me with 9 kids anyway. Like, who want to, you know, experience something like this? You know? With 9 kids now, you go from your kids having to what they need.
Rutledge's landlord says the whole house would need new flooring and walls. He says it will be a project. For now, Rutledge says she'll try to find a new place. In Macon, Ellie Milliken, 13 WMAZ News.
Now, the 13 WMAZ Sports Report with Sammy Costas. Sponsored by Farah and Farah.
It's time for your nightly dose of sports. Just like that, the first round of the 2025 Masters Tournament has concluded. Experts say you can't claim the trophy on day one, but you sure can lose it. After a fun day at the par 3 contest Wednesday, it was time for competitors to get down to business. Justin Rose really separated himself from the pack by the 10th hole. He was under 6 at that point. The Englishman finished the day solely in the lead at 7 under. He scored 8 birdies and 1 bogey. Behind Rose, it's a 3-way tie for second at 4 under, including Corey Connors, reigning Masters champion Scotty Scheffler, and Ludwig Oberg. Other favorites to note, Bryson DeChambeau is tied for 5th. Rory McIlroy is 1 Masters win away from completing the career Grand Slam. He wrapped round 1 even. Georgia Bulldogs alum Harris English found himself in the top 10. Debut dog Davis Thompson is tied for 11th, and we'll catch up with the Macon native Russell Henley, the former Stratford Eagle, closed the round tied for 90th, 7 over. And checking in with the leader of the day, Rose, he says he was able to adjust well following practice rounds he considered not up to his standards.
A really good day's golf on a golf course that was a stern test. I think if you look at the overall leaderboard, not many low scores out there, so you had to hit a lot of quality shots, and delighted with the way I played.
The 13 WMAZ Sports Report, sponsored by Farah and Farah.
Now it's time to celebrate our Thursday tradition, Athlete of the Week. The latest honoree has made a name for himself on the football field, the diamond, and in the classroom. Zion Hudson knows a thing or two about what it takes to be a successful student athlete.
The Hudson name is prominent on the Peach County football field, and now that it's spring, it carries over to the diamond too. Junior Trojan Zion Hudson is a star for both the baseball and football programs. His dedication is represented in the classroom too.
Not being late on work and staying on top of everything and studying hard.
Hudson has worked his way to a 3.9 GPA. He started putting more focus towards turning his grades around when his college future came knocking. Hudson leads the state in stolen bases and runs scored, claiming 46 for both stats.
That's phenomenal. I mean, yeah, he just, when he gets on base, he's going.
But his impact goes beyond the numbers.
He's fantastic. He is a ball of energy, and he's really what makes us go. And yeah, he's our leadoff hitter. He's come so far.
Where does he find his inspiration? His older brother DJ, also a star in both sports.
My brother, he's a very big role model, so he's doing it first, and I'm coming right behind him. So it's cool to have him in front of me.
And as he's looking up to his older brother DJ, he might not even notice the teammates that are aspiring to be just like him.
The 13 WMAZ Sports Report, sponsored by Farah and Farah.
No, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you very much.